Welcome to Your City Connections, where you get to meet entertaining and informative guests. Guests such as an artist with a brush or with a camera, and guests with a violin. City Connections, providing insightful interviews with favorite son Lieutenant Governor Todd Lamb. To city commissioners, the mayor. Interviews with a rodeo queen, to beauty queen, and even a NBA player. Now, join Steve Keim as he discusses another engaging topic on City Connections.
Excellence, pride, success, more classrooms, safer schools, and improved technology. Welcome to City Connections. I'm Steve Keim, and those topics or those keywords are what we're going to be discussing today with my special guest, Dr. Darrell Floyd. Dr. Floyd, welcome to the ETN studios again.
Thank you.
You've been here a few times before, so you know exactly, you left enough crumbs to follow and get back here to the studio. Well, you've been in Enid a year and a half, and so how's that going, and how's the school year going?
Well, it's been a great tenure thus far. I've really enjoyed my time here, and we've done a lot in a year and a half.
I was going to say, it's probably been a blur, right?
It has really been a blur, but we've made some great progress in a number of different areas, not the least of which is spending many months on our strategic plan, and got that in place with the help of a lot of community input, and one small piece of that strategic plan is facilities, and that's what the bond election is all about.
Well, I appreciate you being at ETN Studios today to give us the facts. I remember as a kid growing up, I would watch the show Dragnet, and Sergeant Joe Friday would always say, "Just the facts, ma'am. Just give me just the facts." And so here we are today on City Connections with just the facts, okay? Well, Enid residents will go to the polls on February 9th in 2016. Boy, 2016, that sounds like such a big number, doesn't it? But the reason they're going to the polls on February 9th is the Enid Public Schools multi-million-dollar bond proposal. Now, it's my understanding the projection for the building costs is around $55.8 million, but the total price tag is $92.8 million. Tell us a little bit about, okay, it's 55 million, no, it's really 92 million. Explain, because when people see that in print and say, now wait a minute, I thought they said it was 55, and vice versa.
Yeah, that's a good question, because it is confusing for the average person because they don't deal with this all the time. But that first figure of just under $56 million is really the construction cost of everything included in the bond election proposal. Okay. The other figure is what school districts are legally required to put on the ballot, and that has to legally include all of the interest and fees and costs that are associated with this whole thing. So that's the figure that has to be on the ballot. And I liken it to the your mortgage at your house. If somebody asks you how much you paid for your $100,000 house, most people are going to say $100,000. But then if they pull out that long amortization sheet and look down at the bottom line,
which is very depressing to do.
Oh, very depressing, yeah. And they're going to see that they paid 3 or 4 or sometimes more than that $100,000 figure by the time all the interest and fees are added up into that. And so that's what that bigger figure is. Okay.
We've got a lot of topics that we want to discuss with Dr. Floyd today, so we'll just go down our list. And one of the first things, Dr. Floyd, on the list is in regards to the monies. I understand of this $56 million, that's for buildings, physical things, it's not salaries, correct? Can you kind of explain really specifically the facts on
Sure. I've had that question from folks around the community is, well, we ought to just take all that money and hire additional teachers and increase teacher pay. Well, it's two totally separate pots of money. School districts cannot legally use INS bonded indebtedness money for personnel or programs. Okay. So we can't use that pot of money to hire additional teachers and lower the class ratio, the student-teacher class ratio, or put it into additional programs or anything like that. It has to be used for the purposes that are outlined in this bond proposal.
Well, speaking of the bond proposal, it will address needs at every school. And Dr. Floyd, in kind of an overview, if you will, what are some of these needs? We'll talk specifically about some schools in just a few moments, but in just general fashion, what are some of the needs?
Okay. Just in bullet fashion, I'll kind of go down the list of the broad topic areas that are involved in this bond proposal. This bond proposal will address needs at every campus in our school district and improve things on every site. It'll provide new classrooms for student enrollment growth that we know is coming. It'll address critical safety issues, including school security. It will provide improved technology in a couple of different formats. One is on the technology side, the part of the money will go toward infrastructure that helps run the backbone and the stuff
Sure.
that goes on behind the scene that nobody sees. But the second piece of that and the bigger piece of that money will go toward us reaching our goal of one-to-one initiative, which is one technology device for every student. And then the last two bullets are it'll significantly upgrade our transportation fleet, just like our vehicles at the house that get high mileage and we need to replace them periodically. We're to that point with our bus fleet, and we have to replace a significant portion of those high mileage vehicles. And then lastly, it'll revise and improve not only all of the campuses, but also opportunities in extracurricular areas, both fine arts and athletics. And you probably have seen or read where we did take very seriously the input that we gathered from the community, and we have revised this plan a number of times, but the latest revision, we reduced the athletic portion of this proposal by 35%, and I think that has helped people feel better about the proposal.
Yeah, very good. Well, again, we'll talk more specifics about some of these and particular schools in just a few moments. Dr. Floyd, I want to skip down. I'm systematic. I like to do 1 through 5, not 1, 5, 2, 3, whatever. But you mentioned something about enrollment, and it's towards the latter part of my list. But according to my notes, the Enid Public School District has grown by 23% since 2003, which is an increase of 1,600 students. So I'm going to move this question from the bottom of my list, since you already touched on what, to address the needs. You're saying a bunch of kids are coming to school, in other words.
Yeah,
and they keep coming.
They do, and we went through that strategic planning process, and it was very beneficial for us because we gathered input from not only school employees, but from parents and community members and residents across the community. Well over 1,000 people had input into that strategic plan. And the next step after that was then we contracted with the same group that did the enrollment and capacity study back in preparation for the 2010 bond to do an enrollment study and a capacity study for us as well. Well, the end result of that was that not only have we grown significantly as a school district on our student enrollment growth, but that growth is projected to continue. So as you mentioned, since 2003, we've increased our enrollment by 1,600 students, and we are projected to grow by another 1,500 students by 2023. So we're trying to be proactive about how to make sure that we have places to educate those kids and be proactive rather than reactive, like some districts have done. And when a district gets into reactive mode as opposed to proactive, that's when you have to throw up portable buildings, and those are not the most conducive places to educate kids.
I'm not a math major, but based on the numbers you just shared with me, that's a 50% increase in a 20-year period. Just really incredible. Let's go back to the bond proposal. You were talking earlier about addressing the needs of the schools. Let's focus now on elementary schools. I know many of our viewers right now, or even grandparents, they have grandkids in elementary schools. What are some examples that you can give us about elementary schools that will benefit from this bond proposal?
Okay, in the plan we have classroom additions proposed at several sites. Adams Elementary, Garfield Elementary, Longfellow Middle School, Taft Elementary, Waller Middle School, and Enid High School to help us support that enrollment growth that we just talked about. Separate from that, in regard to safety and security, we've got district-wide safety upgrades included in this plan. That in our newer schools, we have very safe vestibules that visitors have to check in through the
Sure.
office, and they can't get into the campus without doing that. We've got a number of our older campuses that do not have that in place, and we need to upgrade that significantly. Also, in regard to safety and security, we are adding a significant amount of security cameras to keep our students safe, but also our employees safe, and some visitor management systems and things like that.
Let's move on to the middle schools. What are some of the specifics there?
All right, I already mentioned Longfellow and Waller. Those are the two middle schools that will see the most significant growth based on the study that we did. We've got this, we already have this bubble of enrollment growth coming through the system. Added to that, then we'll have the additional growth that we just talked about, and so that's coming through the elementary systems. Now we'll go to the middle school, the three middle schools, and then eventually to the high school. And by 2023, the high school is projected to have 548 more students than they currently have. And so we've got to be proactive about planning for that, and I'm sure we'll get into more specifics about the high school in just a minute.
When you think about that today, you're in your office thinking 500 more students in this high school? Or at least, you know, at the high school across from your office, that's a little scary. That you do not want to be reactionary, that you really want to be proactive. Because it's not all about the administration, it's for the experience as well as the students.
Right.
Because if they're farmed out here and all the chaos along with that, it can really impact that. But 500 more students, you want to really get a hold of it.
It's significant, and one elementary aspect that I left out was we've entered into a very positive agreement with Northwestern Oklahoma State University on the possibility of some additional early childhood classrooms. We have a long list currently, a waiting list of students that want to come into our school system as 4-year-olds, and parents want them to do that, but we don't have enough space for that. Taft Elementary, for instance, had to move their early childhood students off of their campus because they didn't have space. Well, now we're able, in this plan, we are planning on adding additional classrooms there, some of which will be early childhood. Out at Northwestern and EPS currently have one classroom out there of early childhood students. It helps our students and it helps their students because their students can go and easily observe classrooms and that type of thing while they're out there. Well, Northwestern has agreed to donate some land out there to us that we can place 4 early childhood classrooms. That'll be even more win-win for both parties.
Very good. My special guest today on City Connections is Dr. Darrell Floyd, Superintendent of Enid Public Schools. And Dr. Floyd, before we take a break, tell us a little bit about this proposal of the new Fine Arts Center.
Okay. The Fine Arts Center is the location proposed for that is at the back of the high school. There is a parking lot currently between the University Center and the food court. And that is the location that is proposed for the Fine Arts Center. And what would be housed in that location would be all of the performing arts: band, choir, orchestra, dance, music technology. The plan has included in it a small black box theater for more intimate type performances and programs. And then if it's something of a larger nature, then they would still have access to the auditorium for that. Broadcasting studio. There's also plans included in this Performing Arts Center to help us address that enrollment growth that we know is coming to the high school. 15 classrooms would be a part of that, restrooms, and then renovate the current Bouvinger Annex where those programs are currently housed into 8 additional classrooms. So we got the 15 additional classrooms in the Fine Arts Center, and then the 8 classrooms where the current Bouvinger Annex is right now. And we think all of that will be win-win for our performing arts students in all those different categories, and should be something that the district and the high school can be extremely proud of.
And just as a reminder to our viewers, the Enid Public Schools has their own channel of broadcast, which is Channel 19. And so if you have students that are interested in broadcasting, in news, in performance, in running the camera. I mean, what better way to utilize this fine arts, studio or center, and to really develop the students in that way. So this is
It's a great opportunity for kids.
Absolutely. Well, again, the Enid residents will go to polls on February 9th, 2016, and that's really days away. We think, oh, it's down the road. It's really quick. So we'll have more with Dr. Floyd right after this break. Thanks for staying with us on City Connections. Thank you for staying with us on City Connections. My special guest today is Dr. Darrell Floyd, the superintendent of Enid Public Schools. And Dr. Floyd, it's always good to have you back at ETN Studios. As a reminder, residents will go to the polls on February 9th in 2016, which is just around the corner. And the Enid Public Schools has a multi-million-dollar bond proposal that will be before the residents here shortly. You talked a little bit before the break about the Fine Arts Center. Let's talk a little bit. I noticed the terminology in the brochure, and excuse me, let me back up a little bit. Folks, you can go to enidpublicsschools.org/projects. If you want to look at everything and anything that Dr. Floyd and I have been talking about today, go to enidpublicsschools.org/projects, and you will find just the facts. You will find everything about the bond proposal and go from there. Okay, define to us a competitive gym. I know that was a topic in the early days when you were making presentations about gymnasiums and athletics and stuff like that. Clarify what a competitive gym is for us.
Okay, I think some people probably got hung up on the word competitive, but basically it's a high school gym that our EHS students can call their own and practice in every day and perform in on their competitions. And it's a lot more than just a basketball gym. It will, if this thing passes, we'll have a seating capacity of 2,500 students, and I already talked about the enrollment growth that is projected to come at the high school. We have over 2,000 students currently at the high school, and we're projected to have close to 2,600 students by 2023. But the gym itself, the location, first off, is designed to be placed at the south end of the student parking lot at the back of the high school. So where we were talking about that location for the Fine Arts Center, you've got the student parking lot right just south of that, and then at the end of that parking lot there are some old tennis courts that aren't used anymore, haven't been used for years, and that's where the location of the gym is designed to go. That gym would obviously have a very nice wooden floor placed in it, bleachers that would accommodate seating for 2,500, locker rooms, a separate wrestling room. We currently conduct our 6A varsity wrestling at a middle school, which is really kind of unheard of. It also would have security cameras in it and some support spaces. But all of our volleyball teams and basketball teams and wrestling teams would have a place to call their own.
Sure.
And added to that, we're probably the only high school in the state that does not have its own high school to conduct things like pep rallies and hang banners from the rafters and things like that. The Enid Event Center is great, and we appreciate the city's cooperative agreement with us, and it's been great, but our kids deserve a gym of their own to call their own, to practice in every day and perform in, this type of a thing has been talked about for 50 years in this community, and here's our opportunity to finally get it done.
And with that location, it's walking distance. It's not like get in your car and go to the gym. It's just walk south of the school.
It'll be a good location, easy access for all of our students to get to and get back to the high school,
Right.
and then also attached to a parking lot, which will be good.
Let's talk a little bit about the cost. And according to my notes, Dr. Floyd, for a $50,000 home, it would be a cost of $32.81 for the entire year, or $2.73 a month. Now, that's for a $50,000 home. in layman terms, explain to us the cost of this bond proposal to Citizen A.
Okay. Another way to look at it is for every $100 that the taxpayer pays, if this thing passes, would mean a 53-cent increase per month. That's one way to look at it. The other way is the home value that you were talking about. $50,000 home, if this bond proposal passes, would mean a $2.73 increase. You can kind of go on down the list there. If you're purchasing a $100,000 home, that would mean just under $6 per month increase, and so on. Obviously, if you're a renter, you're not a homeowner and paying those taxes directly, but your landlord would be passing that on to you as a renter.
Now, these figures, are they on this website that I referred
Yes,
to?
all this information is on there.
And again, that's enidpublicschools.org/projects to see that entire graphic of the cost. The bond must be passed by 60% of the folks, as I say. A lot of times people kind of lose sight of that. So to me, it's the significance that it's time to get out and vote. But can you recall or remind us why it is that 60%?
It's a big hurdle for public schools to jump.
It's just
and
not
it
an
is
Enid
different.
thing that people
No,
be mindful of.
it's statewide.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what year that came into law, but it was way back there, I think, that school districts were singled out for the 60% threshold, as opposed to cities and counties just having to get one vote more than 50%. So it's a tough hurdle to jump, but even more reason that we need folks to get to the polls. And we certainly want to encourage, as you've already said many times, for people to get to the polls on February the 9th. That's Tuesday, February the 9th, 2016. And then early voting is the Thursday and Friday previous to that. So it'll be Thursday, February the 4th, and Friday, February the 5th.
Let's talk a little bit about the district size. We've already discussed the number of students, 50% growth of students in, say, a 20-year time period, or projected to be that. Compare Enid to other school districts our size. Are we comparable to everyone? Are we behind? Are we ahead? Where are we at? When you compare us, I guess, to the Jenks and the Union,
Yeah.
and the huge school like a Broken Arrow or Westmore.
And all this information also is included in that information that you can find on the website. But we did do a comparison of all of our peer districts on sinking fund monies per student. And we compared ourselves to what their current interest in sinking fund per student is and ours. And we find ourselves at the very bottom of that list. And when I'm talking about peer districts, I'm talking about Muskogee, Sand Springs, Ponca City, Mustang, Bartlesville, Yukon, Owasso, Norman, Stillwater, and Jenks. We're at the bottom of that list at $773 per student on our sinking fund. If this bond proposal passes, it would move us up just 2 rungs on that ladder. So instead of at the bottom of that list, we would move up to 3rd from the bottom of that list, just ahead of Sand Springs and Muskogee.
And that really puts it in perspective about how much is spent on per student. But overall, I know one of the easiest ways to feel defeated that I've learned in life is compare yourself with someone else. But sometimes you do have to do the comparison game to see where you're at with other districts and so forth. And I guess when you see that, it really raises the awareness that we got work to do.
Mm-hmm. We do, and I certainly want to thank the taxpayers and the voters and the community for the support that they have provided EPS students over the last number of years. The 2010 bond proposal was huge in being able to add 2 new elementary schools and do some renovations to some other campuses, but we still have a long way to go. That was kind of step 1, and this bond proposal is step 2, and will get us a long way down the road to meeting all those objectives that we've already talked about. And it's the right thing to do for kids now and in the future.
Yeah. And we've kind of just touched on some of the topics. Dr. Floyd and I have touched on a few of the topics, what this bond proposal is all about. But again, keep in mind, you can go to enidpublicschools.org/projects, and we'll have that on the screen for you. and you'll be able to go and learn and just really see in more detail what we've talked about. And our show today, again, has been about excellence and pride and success, more classrooms, safer schools, and improved technology. And I guess that's really, in our notes, those red letters, that's the synopsis of what this bond proposal is all about. Safer schools, let's get technology up to speed, and by golly, more kids are coming to school. We've got to have room for them.
That's right. That's what it's all about. That's a good summarization, and that's really what the overall bond proposal is about, and certainly want to encourage everybody to get out and vote.
Very good. Dr. Floyd, time for you to get back to class.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
It's the first time I've ever said that to a superintendent. You know, get back to class, would you? Thank you for joining us on City Connections. I hope our conversation with Dr. Floyd has been helpful to you. It's been enlightening to me to just really learn about the importance of education. We all know it's important, but you know, it cost us to be there. I remember my mom told me a long, long time ago, she said, Steve, the grass may be greener on the other side, but the water bill is higher too. So she reminded me that it costs something. If you really want green grass, it's going to cost you something. And so I think we all know in our community it's going to cost us something if we want to raise the bar in what we're doing. Thank you for being with us on City Connections. It's my pleasure to be with you, and look forward to next time when we talk with another special guest here in the Enid community. Until next time, make it a great day.